Hello, Garland Nixon here, and there appears to have been some kind of a strike on a location in Kramatorsk in Ukraine. There's a lot of buzz about it. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and there appears to have been an incident in a city called Kramatorsk in Ukraine. That is apparently a city that's not far from the front lines. It is a city that seems to be used as a staging area for NATO and for Ukraine's, and I'll use this term guardedly, allies. If we look on the news, let's see what we got. Generally what you'll look at, I'm looking for some news. It is considered that what they're basically saying, Ukraine says local man helped Russia target deadly missile strike at pizzeria, right? As rescuers sift through the rubble of a Kramatorsk restaurant, distraught relatives wait for news, right? And so now basically what they're saying is the Russians, and you're reading things like this that aren't really rational. It's the usual, Putin's an angry madman and he's emotional. And so because of the incident with Prigozhin, he was mad and he said, doggone it, there's people eating pizza. And as a madman, nothing pisses me off than somebody sitting down enjoying a good pizza. And so for whatever reason, he targeted pizza and blew the hell out of a restaurant. They sent in some missiles, apparently. I'm hearing Iskanders and kablooey on the restaurant. And what we're hearing is that some civilians died, but it's noticeably absent from the U.S. coverage is that there were a whole hell of a lot of people in military uniforms who were speaking languages other than Ukrainian who were involved in this incident, who suffered. Let's take a look. Let's do this. Let us do this. Let's take a look at a video from the pizza shop as it's presented, and let's see what the old pizza shop video shows us. All right, there we got the so-called pizza shop. Let's look at the video and see what we got.
Slava Bogu. Look what these bastards are doing to this country. There's soldiers under this rubble all over.
All right, so let's quickly evaluate what we saw here in this video. There's obviously rubble. It appears to be where the missile strike happened, and there are about at least 80 to 90% of the people that I've been able to see in this video are military. They've got on fatigues, they've got their whatever military stuff. So it appears that there are a lot of military people here. Now, the next piece of data that we can pull from this particular clip is the audio, where there's a man with a British South African, maybe. But this guy I'll put it like this: he ain't Ukrainian. Let's just go there. He is not Ukrainian. So the guy that is speaking is not Ukrainian, and he's saying, "Oh, look now. Let's go on. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Look what these bastards are doing to this country." So the bastards, I guess, would be Russia. He's angry at the Russians. He hates the Russians. Okay, fair enough. We understand that. But he says this country, right? Which kind of implies to me that he's not from Ukraine. I'll put it like this. It's possible that he could be saying this country and be from Ukraine. However, when you put these two pieces of evidence together, he refers to Ukraine as this country, not our country or not our homeland or anything like that. He says this country, coupled with the fact that he's got a damn accent from South Africa or England or somewhere. Those two pieces of information together make it clear he's not Ukrainian. We've seen video. I've gone. You can go through Twitter, go Instagram, all over the place. You'll see video of guys with U.S. Airborne Ranger tattoos. You'll see guys speaking clear English. We know that Colombia is now saying that they had some Colombians were killed there. What the hell are Colombians doing? So now we're seeing people from all over the world who are at this particular hotel / restaurant. There were casualties there. According to the mainstream media in the US, there were 9 people killed. If you look at let's look at some of the, and I think it's important to also do this. If we look at some of the pictures, let me find a picture of the entire hotel. Hold on here. So let's take a look, and maybe we can determine whether this looks like an incident where 9 people were killed. According to this, it certainly appears, if we go here, that this might have been the center of the strike here. Now, there could have been additional strikes here, but you can kind of see, if you look, you see the blast, it looks like the blast hit here. You see you get lesser and lesser and lesser, and it stops here. Look at the damage here, come out, and it starts to stop here. You can see a circle where the blast radius. Now, certainly, it appears this may have been an open area. The blast did more damage out here. It was absorbed by this. This must have been an open area. It came out and the blast got absorbed here. You can see it going around here. You can see the blast going up this way. So here's your blast. It gets absorbed here. It goes straight out this way. Boom. It goes straight out that way and takes some things out. So you can see this was the strike. It appears to me right in here. Now, that means that this blast, the sound, etc., I can't see how anyone in here there was no chance of survival here. And I would imagine, being that this is a restaurant and it was struck here, here's going to be probably your pizza spot right here. So it hits here. There is nobody in here. And I would argue this, with a blast that size in this building, I can't see how anybody survives that. I can't see how anybody survives that. People on these floors, all in here, the chance of survival all around here. So the mainstream media is saying 9 people, it's up to 12. I would imagine the numbers are a lot higher. And in the first video that I showed, the narrator of the video said there's soldiers all under this rubble. Well, according to the mainstream media, there's only 9. And of those 9, or I think it's up to 12 now, we're told that there was a baby that was killed, that there were twins that were killed, a mother. So they got about 4 or 5 of them accounted for as civilians. So according to this mainstream media, there was, let's go with 7. If about 5 are accounted for as civilians, we'll say the other 7 were mercenaries. That blast only hit 7 people. The other thing to keep in mind is I showed you the center of the blast, so that was a hit. But that doesn't mean that there was only one missile. There could have been more than one strike. The 2 missiles could have followed each other right in behind each other. So there could have been twin blasts. I don't personally know how many blasts there were, but it certainly appears there was a minimal one, and there ain't no way in hell that I evaluate that scene and say 9 people were killed, 7 people were killed, etc. I think what we're looking at is a couple of things. My evaluation, based on everything that I've read, I'm sure a lot of people are watching that have done similar type of research here, and it appears that at minimum, Well, one of the things that we've heard is that there was a particular mercenary who was saying, "Hey, I'm going to the pizza shop for a meeting, whatever the case may be, and here's where the pizza shop is," and that there was geolocation data on his Instagram or whatever social media account. "Hey, look at me! Here I am. We're going to have a meeting at this pizza shop." And the Russians said, "Okay, well, there you go. We'll just send you a takeout order for free, and that's going to be Iskander missiles." Now, I would imagine that ain't all, because one single mercenary saying that I'm going to be at a pizza shop certainly does not imply that you're going to have a lot of mercenaries in the area. There are other things. I've also seen online where there were a number of mercenaries posting pictures of the pizza shop saying, "I'm staying at this hotel. Here's where I am," pictures of their pizza, all this kind of stuff. So it appears that the mercenaries were, shall we say, careless in sharing the data of their locations. Additionally, you're going to have certainly intelligence from the Russians. I will guarantee you they got spotters on the ground. That the Ukrainian, that the entire Ukrainian, the state is loaded with spies and with Russian operatives. Guarantee you that. So they're going to have spotters on the ground who are looking, saying, "Hey, you know, I'm seeing a lot of mercs going in and out here. Probably, in all likelihood, this is a place that they've been surveilling." No, in all likelihoods about it, I'm going to guarantee you that as many mercs as are floating around this place, they have been surveilling it for some time. They've been watching it. They've had pizza in it. Pizza. Listen to me. They may have eaten pizza in it. They've had people in there who were, it could be bugged. Here's the other thing, cell phones. If these idiots, mercenaries, have their cell phones out and they are sending out information about, that, "Hey, here I am on social media. Selfie. Here's a picture of my pizza. Me with the pizza. Click selfie." They're doing this kind of stuff, right? That means they got their cell phones. Let's not forget that very early in the conflict, one of the things that happened there was a NATO base up near the Polish line, near Lviv, however you choose to pronounce it. And that the mercenaries were packed in there by the hundreds. Some say up to a couple of thousand, whatever the case may be. There was huge NATO training bases. What we heard later on, not know if it's 100% true, but it makes sense, that the Russians were watching the cell phones, and that they looked and they saw a huge collection of cell phones from all over. What do you know? We got British cell phones, we got South African cell phones, we got American cell phones, all clumped together. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send a couple of missiles towards those cell phones and see what turns up. I think that's what, let's face it, it's not a hard call if you're Russia to look at that and say, there's a bunch of cell phones together. They're from all over the country, all over the world. Yeah, we're going to take them out. And apparently that's what they did, which leads me to believe that these people learn nothing. And that's, let's face it, if they're putting stuff on Instagram, they're most likely using their cell phones. If they're putting this stuff on social media, they're most likely using their cell phones. So I would imagine the Russians had a collection of data. Before you're going to launch a strike like that, you're not going to do it based on a little bit of data. They're going to look at it. They're going to say, number one, we're seeing a bunch of cell phones together on our computers, satellites, hacking devices, whatever. We're seeing a bunch of foreign cell phones together. Number two, we got spotters on the ground that see now, because the Russians are saying they killed 2 generals there, right? We got spotters on the ground. Guarantee you that. They probably got the place bugged. They got all kinds of stuff going on there. So I would suspect this, if they killed a couple generals. Not only did they hit the spot, they've been surveilling it for a while, and they waited for the right time, the most opportune. They didn't just say, "Hey, there's a whole bunch of foreign mercenaries hanging out at this pizza shop. Let's blow up the pizza shop." Nah, I would imagine that Russian intelligence would be far sharper than that. That what they would say is, let's keep watching this thing. Let's keep looking, getting the information. Let's keep getting stuff from our spies and intelligence, so that at some point we find out there's a big meeting. That they killed 2 generals. 2 generals just don't stop by for pizza at the local pizza shop. They said, let's wait till they have their big meeting. So apparently if in fact what they're saying is true. We don't know it is that it is or isn't, but let's just go by what we have. If in fact it's true that they killed a couple of generals, they weren't the only high-ranking officials there by themselves, and they didn't stop by for a mushroom and pepperoni pizza. There was some kind of a planning meeting or something going on there, some kind of an event that the Russians waited until the right people showed up. Now, the Ukrainians have apparently arrested someone and said, whoever this person was a Russian operative, that he was a spotter. Now, I'll say this. We don't know that that's true. It could be true. It could not be true. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't arrest anyone. Maybe they've got someone and they're accusing of it that he did or didn't do it. So we don't know anything about this one particular person's case. But we do know that, or I'll put it like this. Based on understanding intelligence operations, it is reasonable to assume there was a physical spotter in the vicinity. Guarantee you he left the pizza shop, but he was in the vicinity, and that this physical spotter at some point made the call. That's the way it works. See, when you do a strike like this, and there's going to be collateral damage with civilians, you're not just going to do it out of the blue. You're not just going to wake up one morning and say, hey, what's today? Tuesday. Great. Let's blow up a pizza shop. No, you're going to wait for the most opportune time that you can do the most damage. You're going to wait and say, hey, guess what? On the 30th or 28th, 27th, whatever the hell of June, they're having a big meet, and General so-and-so and so-and-so is going to be there. There's going to be all these mercenaries coming together. Maybe they're having a party. Maybe they're giving out awards. Hey, this is the Nazi of the Year award to Adolf here. Yes, this is the official Iron Cross of the Third Reich. And so they got maybe some Azov guys there. They're giving out awards for the Nazi of the Year, who hates Jews the most or something, hates blackness the most. And this guy hates Latinos the most. There you go. Everybody gets an award, right? So they're there, maybe having a Nazi of the Year award ceremony. Maybe they're handing out free swastikas or something, signed picture books of Mein Kampf, the kind of stuff you do in Ukraine. You know how it is. Bandera posters. They got like a big cardboard cutout of Stepan Bandera. You take pictures next to that. So they're involved in the joyous festivities of the Nazi of the Year contest. Some guy's crying. They're like, and now the Nazi of the Year is Adolf, whatever. And the guy's like crying, like a beauty contest. No, my God, I never thought Nazi. Me? I'm not deserving of the Nazi of the Year. I'm just a regular old Nazi. I'm not. Why? How did I get this? No, let me give it to my friend over here. No. You get the Nazi of the Year award. And along with the Nazi of the Year award, I think they got a free Iskander missile. I think the Russians added a prize. The prize for the Nazi of the Year award, let's say, was a Mein Kampf copy signed, with Hitler's tears or something like that, which would be something that would really be prized right now amongst the Azov battalion. But along with that, the Russians said, we're going to give you an extra prize. We're going to give you a free missile with 750 kilograms of high explosive. There you go. And kablooey, and the Nazi of the Year award ceremony was briefly interrupted by an Iskander missile, and all participants got a free trip to hell, where you can eat as much pizza as you want, and it's wood in a permanent wood-fired oven, which I don't really believe in hell, but if I did, you get my point, right? You're out of here. You're done. So I think that's what happened. Whatever it was, meeting, Nazi of the Year award, planning meeting, review of after action review. There was something going on that had a whole lot of mercs together, a whole lot of high ranking people. And I will guarantee you the Russians waited for that, and they added dessert, and dessert was a big missile. Now, let me add this, not because I'm sounding cynical here, but the reality is, unfortunately, there were some civilians killed. No question about that. There's no question. And that was a horrible thing. There were some civilians who are working in a pizza shop, working in the hotel, whatever the case may be, people who had to eat, people who had to feed their families, or people who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and these people were killed. And I think that's a terrible tragedy. Do I blame the Russians? Well, in theory, the Russians fired the missile. So guess what? In war, if you fire a missile, people die on the other end, you're responsible for their death. That being said, there are principles of international law, and under the principles and spirits of international law, if in fact the Russians were firing at a legitimate military target, then it would not be a war crime. If they were firing at a illegitimate target, if they were firing at a knowingly, with malice and a forethought, firing at civilian targets, such as what has been going on in eastern Ukraine for I don't know how long, such as what's been going on in the Belgorod region with some of the incursions and drone attacks in Crimea, etc. So if the Russians had been firing at a civilian target, knowing that it was a civilian target and it was not a legitimate military target, that would have been a violation of international law. It could be considered a war crime. However, when I look at a video and I see a video loaded with foreign mercenaries, and I hear the foreign mercenaries clearing the rubble saying, there's soldiers everywhere, or there's lots of soldiers, or there's numerous soldiers, any kind of comment like that saying that under the rubble, there are a lot of military personnel, it negates the argument that the Russians intentionally targeted a military infrastructure, because either one of two things happened. Either this was a legitimate military target and there were a lot of military people there, and so therefore the Russians had tactically had a legal ability to make that move, right? So either it's a military target and the Russians therefore had a right under international law and the laws of war to target and strike that military target, or since we know there was a lot of dead military people there, or the Russians intentionally targeted a military target and just by happenstance they accidentally killed a lot of military people. Now, I would prefer the former over the latter based on the fact that it doesn't make sense to me. It is not logical to say that the Russians deliberately targeted a civilian target and accidentally killed a bunch of military guys, particularly when the Russians are saying, we intentionally killed a bunch of military guys. When the Russians are saying, look, here's a bunch of Instagram pictures of these idiots saying, hey, look, here's a picture of me right here. Click. I am at the pizza place. And if you're a Russian missile targeting person, just check my geolocation, type it into the old computer, and it will be effectively suicide. That's basically what happened. They kind of forgot that they're not in Afghanistan, that they're not abusing a country that doesn't have the technological ability to defend itself. In Afghanistan, you could take pictures, you could put stuff on Instagram. It didn't matter because the Afghanistan government did not have the technological ability to capitalize on that, to take advantage of that information. You're up against Russia. They got hypersonic missiles. We don't have hypersonic missiles. They're a decade at least ahead of us in missile technology. They're ahead of us in a lot of technological fields, including electronic warfare, for whatever reason. So it's not like they're a bunch of backwards guys. So if you're going to be posting stuff online, they're looking at all of it. I mean, let's face it, it doesn't take a technological genius to look at Instagram posts, to look at social media. They can assign a couple of 19-year-olds and say, look, you guys are pretty good with Instagram, right? Yeah, I want you to get an account and put a picture of it. Make sure it's a pretty girl. Those mercenaries will watch that. Put a picture of a pretty Russian girl up there, blonde-haired, shapely Russian girl. Hi, my name is, whatever the hell Russian girl's name would be, Lyudmila. There you go. My name is Lyudmila. I say that because I know a Russian woman named Lyudmila, right? So I know that's a Russian name. Hi, my name's Lyudmila, and I'd like to be your friend. And all of these mercenaries are going like, oh, yeah, I got a friend named Lyudmila. Ooh, she's hot. Click. That is the click of suicide. That's the click of death. Because Lyudmila on the other end is watching your Instagram account, watching where you go day and night. And every time you put something up, hey, look, Lyudmila, I'm at the pizza shop. And Lyudmila answers, man, that's a great pizza. Where are you at there, buddy? Oh, I'm going to be at the pizza shop tomorrow. You know, Lyudmila, we're having a big meeting at the pizza shop. A whole bunch of guys will be there. Maybe one day we can meet. And Lyudmila's like, yeah, I have a kind of feeling that we're going to have a very close interaction within the next few days. And oh, hooray! The mercenary on social media has met a new beautiful woman, and Ludmilla can just say she's Ukrainian. The Russian will freak them out. But so they've got a new friend, and they're telling their new friend where they are. And Ludmilla's just typing things in, sending it over to intelligence, and the intelligence is like, "Hey, these suckers are coming together tomorrow at 4 at the pizza shop. We'll be there." Send some guy over there to watch. They look, "Hey, General so-and-so has arrived. Oh, we got to wait for our second general. He's arrived. Okay, let's do it. Launch." Boom. And that's it. These people basically committed online suicide. That's what they did. They put their information out. They got blown up. Now, the only thing they can do afterwards, after you've been blasted to hell by a missile, the only thing they can really do is narrative control after that, which is what the neocons do. So that's what we're seeing now, narrative control. What we're seeing now is, just a dozen civilians died. That was it. The Russians just deliberately attacked civilians. And don't believe your lying eyes from these videos. Don't believe your lying ears from the people in the videos who are saying, "Hey, I'm not from around this country, but doggone it, I hate those Russians. Look what they're doing to this country." Now, hey, let me add this. The video that I showed, and you can clearly hear someone who is neither Ukrainian nor Russian nor Eastern European in any way, shape, or form, although I'm sure there was a Pole or two there, saying, "Look what they're doing look what those bastards are doing to this country," right? You ain't from that country. You don't get to say that. What? No, you're in this country, and you are there facilitating two things. The kidnapping of people from this country. Have you been watching Telegram? What do? Some poor bastards at night drinking a beer in a bar. Next thing you know, he gets clunked over the head, dragged out of the bar by some goons, thrown in the back of a truck, and he finds himself somewhere in Germany getting trained to run into a minefield. That's what they're training him to do. Here, we want you to learn how to run this Bradley vehicle. What am I going to do? All right, there's going to be a minefield. You're driving into the minefield. And the guy's like, "Well, why would I want to do that? Slava, Ukraine, you're standing up to the Russians right into the minefield where you will be incinerated immediately." That's what's happening. Kidnapping people, stick them in a Bradley or something, out into the minefield they go. So why do I say all that? Let's get back to that video. Look what those bastards are doing to this country. Really? Are those bastards kidnapping the people of the country, training them for 3 or 4 weeks enough that basically they can get in a Bradley, they can put it in gear, and they can go forward because they don't really need to know much else. If your job is to go into the middle of a minefield and get blown to hell, it's not like you need really fine-tuned skills of operating this thing. You don't even need to know how to use the radio. All you need to know, you don't need to know how to use reverse. You ain't going to get a chance to use reverse. You'll be dead far before this thing goes into reverse. So the people who are involved in kidnapping Ukrainians, throwing them into a middle of a minefield to their immediate and certain death, have the unmitigated gall to say, "Look what the Russians are doing to this country." Let me ask you this. Do you think more Ukrainians died in that missile strike or on a given frickin' day on the battlefield, on the minefields of Eastern Ukraine? I'm going to guess on a given day. They've literally had days where they've lost 1,000, 1,500 men. I don't think 1,000 men were killed in that strike. I think a lot were, but I don't know. I don't know if there was 1,000 were killed. I would bet there was a whole hell of a lot because if hey, come on, everybody and all the Ukrainian military guys are going to the Nazi of the Year award. Who'd miss that? So the bottom line is, whatever there's a ceremony they were having or meeting they were having there, I doubt if there was 1,000 people there. I doubt if there was as many people as gets killed on a given day. And let me add this. The guy says, "Look what the bastards are doing to this country." Do the neocons, do the people who are running this war have a concern for this country, which is Ukraine? You see, if they had a concern for this country, when Ukraine in March of 2022, when Ukraine had their deal with the Russians, they would have said, "Sign it. You got to sign this deal. You got a deal for peace. Let's sign it." Why? Well, because we're concerned for your country and we don't want you to get killed. So sign a deal and get peace. No, the fact of the matter is this. that's not relevant to what's going on. Even, which goes to show that this, even the mercenaries that are fighting there, everybody that's involved on the side of the neocon agenda has to be misled. Even the mercenaries has to be misled, which ain't hard, because if you're a mercenary, it's not like you're a freaking genius. You know what I mean? What kind of a smart, wise, and brilliant person wants to go into the middle of war, who wants to go from war to war until they end up getting blasted or maimed or their head blown off, right? I mean, if you're a mercenary, you're not defending your country. You just want the opportunity to kill other human beings. So if you get it, you put yourself in that position. Hey, you know, you got what you came for. But the fact of the matter is, the mercenaries are there talking a false narrative, saying, hey, we're here to, because the Russians are doing bad things to this country. If you think it through, they're there to insist to assist U.S. imperialism in destroying the country and trying to rule the world in a futile and failed effort. It ain't going to work. It's never going to work. But the mercenaries, I guess, believe that. And here's the bottom line: if you're a mercenary, you don't have to really believe it. You just have to pretend that you believe it. You want to go somewhere and fight in a war. That's what you want to do. So when somebody gives you an excuse, hey, we're going to pay you, we want you to go to Ukraine and fight in a war. Okay, why am I there? Now, you've already said yes. Hey, you want to go fight in a war? Yes, you had me at fighting a war. Oh, by the way, why am I there? I'll come up with something and send you an email. Okay, thanks. Let me know when you come up with a false, fake, and fraudulent narrative. Just email it to me, and I will parrot that narrative, because the fact of the matter is, I just want to go somewhere and go to war because I'm a mercenary, and I just need some bullcrap to tell myself and that I can use as a rah-rah rallying cry, right? Well, we're there to stop the aliens. Good enough. If they'd have told him that, the mercenaries would have been, look what these aliens are doing to this country. It wouldn't matter. They're just using blind and false rhetoric. So they will have an excuse to do what they want to do, which is go to war. They got their false rhetoric. There you go. So the fact of the matter is, don't pay attention to the reasons that these mercenaries are saying. They're mercenaries. Why are the mercenaries there? To fight and kill other people. That's what they're there for. What are they there for? To kill other human beings. That's what a mercenary wants to do. That's what a mercenary enjoys. They understand the risk that they're taking, and they feel. But these Western mercenaries, and this is critical, I think, to understand, they're getting a lesson, the ones that survive, because they're accustomed to U.S. imperialism, which means you go to Africa, which means you go to Latin America, you go to the Middle East, you go to an area that the U.S. empire has been harassing, has been impoverishing, has been stealing their resources, and therefore they're poor and they don't have a way to really defend themselves legitimately. You go to that area, so you have all this power of the U.S. empire behind you, right? You have airplanes flying over, you have missiles, you have all of these technological things that this country in Africa or the Middle East or Latin America can't afford. And so you go there, and it's easy for you to kill the enemy, because you see the enemy out there and you fire at them and you call, we need an airstrike. Boom, they come in and they blow up the enemy. Ha ha ha, look at all of these Taliban members we killed. The odds of you dying are not good, right? And now they're going to, at minimum, a peer competitor. And in this particular circumstance, a competitor that has, and I'll use Barack Obama's terms, escalatory dominance. So now they've gone from, we're going to be fighting against people who have a technological, a numerical disadvantage. And now we're going to fight against people who have a technological and numerical advantage. They're not accustomed. The Taliban, like, they might have some Katyusha rockets or something like that they could heave in, throw some mortars, whatever, something like that, right? You could talk on your cell phone all day in Afghanistan. You're now fighting a technologically superior, at least technologically, in some instances superior, in the context of a battlefield on Russia's border, on the border of a military superpower, an economic superpower. On the border of a military and economic superpower, you're fighting that military and economic superpower, which means you are at a market disadvantage. So these mercenaries are not accustomed to that. They're pissed. Hey, we're the ones that do this. We're the ones that go to Afghanistan and we see a bunch of people, farmers coming together to pick olives and we say, must be Taliban, and we blow it up. We see a wedding, we blow up everybody there and say, yeah, must have been some guy, might have been there who was a member of the Taliban. We blew up the whole wedding and killed everybody. We're accustomed to doing that. Now the Russians are actually saying, see a bunch of guys in uniform. We got spotters on the ground. We got Instagram intelligence information. We got all this info. What do you know? There's General A. There's General B. Fire. Missile comes in. Kablooey. That's it. They're getting a lesson in that, and they don't know how to deal with it. And this is particularly a bad timing for the neocons in light of what recently happened. You had the whole Prigozhin thing, which went down the tubes real quick. It was, and they were up against a country. And see, this is what the U.S. hates. A country with a strong central government. Let's simplify that. With a strong central government. That's why they hate Iran and Venezuela and China and Russia and Cuba. The real thing that they hate is a strong central government, because a central government that is strong is generally aligned with the needs of the people. And that's why it's strong. That's why it's strong, because on some level, it's aligned with the needs of the people. And that makes it strong because the people then unify behind the government and they're trying to get something done. So they're like, hey, Prigozhin's going to take out the government. And if you watch my video, I'm like, look, this too shall pass. That ain't happening. Russia's got a strong central government, a couple of people marching down the road, and some lunatic Prigozhin ranting and raving about who he hates and how he's going to change the Ministry of Defense. I knew that wasn't going far. So their hope there that Russia was going to disintegrate before their very eyes, that all of their dreams would come true, fell apart. And meanwhile, we got the counteroffensive, where, as we've all discussed time and again, you throw kidnapping victims into a minefield. Well, if you know anything about military tactics, even though I don't, let me go one further. You don't have to know anything about military tactics to know if you take me and Camilla V and Chicken Patty. None of us are trained to run a Bradley vehicle. You kidnap us, you throw us into a Bradley vehicle, and you say, the minefield's that way, put it in gear. Well, first of all, I'm going to say, oh, the minefield's that way? Yes. In that case, I'll be going that way. But of course, you then get shot for desertion. So the choice is what you're going to get shot for. Either are you going to get shot or blown to hell in a Russian mine? But it doesn't take a military tactician or genius to know that if you stick the three of us in a Black Bradley and we start inching towards the minefield, that the final result is not going to be a positive one for us. So their plans for the counteroffensive went, as they obviously should have, awry. And then they're sitting there with, like, caught with their pants around their ankles, as they say. You're sitting there, you're planning for overthrowing the government for hopes that Prigozhin would be able to do it, and ain't gone too well. Your plan for a counteroffensive that is kidnapping victims versus minefields, a counteroffensive, flop, as could be easily predicted. Now, what do? Well, you got to come up with a new narrative, because that don't matter. Meanwhile, General Zaluzhny, he hasn't been heard from. The guy in charge of intelligence, Boris Badenov, I guess. That's an old cartoon in the U.S. But whatever, can't find him. These guys have disappeared. Apparently, are they still on this mortal plane? I'll put it like this. I can guarantee you two people that weren't at that meeting at the pizzeria, and one of them was Badenov or whatever, and Zaluzhny. They weren't in a meeting in the pizzeria, not unless there's a pizzeria in hell. If there's a pizzeria in hell, they're probably having a nice, as I've said before, wood-fired pizza. But other than that, and as I always say, I don't really believe in hell. But if I did, you get the point. I mean, for rhetorical purposes, they're at all-you-can-eat pizza. There was if you've ever read Dante Alighieri's Dante's Inferno, in Dante's Inferno, description of hell, the river Styx, Styx, runs through hell. So I guess they're at the Styx all-you-can-eat pizza, Riverside Inn. enjoying enjoying all the pizza they can eat, right? And now, guess what? They got another company. They got a lot of company. All the guys who were at the Nazi of the Year party at Rio's Pizza, guess what? They're there with their signed copies of Mein Kampf and reading passages together. I guess whatever the hell. They're out of here. They're done. They're history. And the only thing the neocons have now is an opportunity for another false narrative. That's 3 flops in a row. Flop 1, your offensive, predictably went bad. Flop 2, your hopes that Prigozhin would overthrow the country never had a prayer. Flop 3, you put a bunch of idiot mercenaries together and apparently a couple of generals, and they were unwise enough to go on social media and personally advise the Russians that they were having a meeting and where they were going to have a meeting. And the Russians took the predictable actions of targeting that meeting and blowing it to bloody hell. And that could have been a short video. I could have just said, yeah, that's pretty much it. They said, we're going to be here. The Russians said, what time? 4 p.m. We'll see you then. Boom. And the rest is a pizzeria, the Rio pizzeria, whatever the case may be. And let me just say this. I got to be honest. One of the mercenaries, let's be honest about this. One of the mercenaries put out a picture, and he's like, and it was a picture of a pizza. And he says, look at this pizza. I enjoyed my pizza just an hour or whatever, a couple of hours before this. I was there. Right. And I looked at it and I thought, that's a hell of a good looking pizza. I got to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this one thing right now. I looked at that pizza that mercenary put up. That was a damn good looking pizza. So I got to say that the Banderites and mercenaries, whatever the hell, happened to them, those who are, dead under the rubble, those who got their arms ripped off, mangled, burned, blinded, you name it, castrated by the flying glass, all the terrible things that happened to these mercenaries. I will say this, they had some damn good pizza on the way out. They really, those who got to eat their pizza first, really got an opportunity to enjoy some good pizza. Based on the picture that I saw, I got to say, good looking pizza there. Good pizza. Unfortunately for these mercenaries, and unfortunately, really, to be honest, unfortunately for the civilians, it is a tragedy. Let's not speak lightly of civilian deaths. There was a picture of, 2 girls. Oh, these are twins and they're 14-year-old. There was a picture of a baby with blood on them. All those things are terrible, if in fact they're true. Remember, there was the infamous opera hall or whatever earlier where they showed that they showed this picture and they said, it was a maternity hospital that they said the Russians blew up a maternity hospital, and they showed a picture of some woman. Here's a pregnant woman, blood all over. She was struck in the maternity hospital. And then the picture came out that it was actually like 2 or 3 years earlier. The exact same picture was used for another false flag statement. So do we really know that the pictures that we saw online were in fact civilians that were killed? We don't know that. We don't know that, but we do know that there's no way I see in the world that a missile struck this pizza joint and there weren't some civilians killed. And do I blame the Russians? No, I put the blame on the people for turning this into a military target. For the people who said, hey, it's a good idea for us to all go here and hang out and let's put it on social media. You condemned those civilians to death. It's a town. It's near the front lines. This town is crawling with military people, and now they're all going to have a meeting at a pizza shop. Come on, man! If you're going to have a meeting at a military base. See, the thing I think is too that, and I think they're cynical, and I think it was like, hey, if we have a meeting at a pizza shop, there's no way in hell that the Russians will target it because it's a civilian target. So they put everybody there thinking the fact that it was a civilian target, that they interpreted it as a civilian target, protected them somehow. They used these civilians as human shields. And I think that was unthinkable. But whatever the case, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it went down. All right, everybody. Well, I got to run. Let me look for my super chats. I'll hit a couple of them. Wagner are good ambassadors for Russia outside Russia. The coup makes sense if Prigozhin's target was to discredit them, not the government and rob Russia of a fantastic tool like Wagner. That's Elena Diaz. Always good comments here. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but I think it was a good comment. And Elena may know far more than me, but yeah, I can make an argument that outside of Russia, yes, particularly in Africa, those people love Wagner. But Elena Diaz, how can shovels make so much damage? Yeah, that's a fact. They dropped a giant shovel. That's what it was. The Russians, from the looks of me, it's the mercenaries that need shovels now. And it ain't for defending themselves. It's high time that Russia deal with these idiotic mercenary joints in NATO command centers. And that seems to be what they're doing. I think the message is that none of that crap is off limits anymore. Make Ukraine Russia again, says Sparky, that there's open season on mercenaries. I think that's pretty much what they're saying. It's open season on mercenaries. All right. Let us also see, do we have anybody on? No comment, no tips on Rockfin. Thanks a lot, everybody. Somebody makes a good point. So Hiroshima and Dresden were war crimes after all. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks a lot, everybody. Do not forget, follow me on all my social media platforms, especially and everybody hit the like button. We got 1,800 people here, so we should have at least 1,887 likes. Additionally, go to rockfin.com/Garland Nixon and become a member. Don't forget, if they throw me off YouTube, which they may, I got to have an alternative platform. Mine is rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. Easy to join. It's inexpensive, it costs nothing, and it's uncensored. So if they censor some of these videos, you can watch them there. Additionally, this is one they may censor. They may not like what I said, but you can watch it at Rockfin. You got to go over there and become a member. That's all I'm saying. Lastly, if you choose, you can become a subscriber at Rockfin. If you're able to help the channel, please become a subscriber. It's $14.99 a month if you can afford it, and it's $12 something a month if you join for a year, because it doesn't, they knock off a couple of months. Also, if you can see, you guys buy me a coffee. My Cash App information is there. Buy me a coffee now too. You can do just like Patreon if you want to do each cost. It's like buy Garland a coffee for $5. And how many coffees do you want? Whatever. Well, you can do it monthly, just like Patreon. And of course, there is the Patreon option. So thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate it. I did the best I could to let everybody know what was going on, and have a wonderful day. I got all kinds of things going on, man. I've been doing video all over the world lately. I just did some stuff for Russia, but at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Peace. I'm out.